Welcome to this Green Tree tutorial on eDocs, expense receipts and claims. Employees, are you tired of hunting for your receipts at the end of each month when it's time to put in your expense claim, not being able to find them? Employers, are you tired of getting expense claims without having any receipts attached? eDoc expense receipts and claims is just what you need. Within Greentree, you can have eDoc users who don't have access to any other functions. They'll get a desktop and they can see their expense receipts and their expense claims. We're going to open into a blank eDoc expense receipt. It has a picture of the receipt on the right-hand side and a space for coding on the left. Type in the purpose, taxi ride to airport. You have an expense type. You can drop down and change it. You can have a default. Type in the value of the receipt, currency if required, and who the receipt was from. A coding comment allows you to type something for your accounting department. So pass charge on to client or not. When you're finished, click Save. The form that we're seeing here is the basic expense receipt. If I come down here into user maintenance, I'm currently logged in as super, and go into my eDoc preferences. Under the type options for expense receipt, I've ticked use basic form. If I untick this, then I get more options when I'm coding my expenses. So if we go into this other blank one up here, I still have my picture on the right hand side and I still have the same coding comments and type that I had in the other form, but I now have all of my coding options for where I want it to go. So again, what's the purpose of the expense? My expense type is taxi. Now these expense types come because you have set up an expense tree. So on the tree, you can have branches and sub-branches, and for each branch, you can dictate where it's allowed to be coded to. So this is using a requisition type for travel, and that will specify the GL accounts. On my dinner one, I have got some tolerance warnings, so I'm saying for this one that my expense receipt is only allowed to be $50, otherwise I get a warning. You can also, as I have on this mileage, track quantity and specify a rate per quantity. So back to our expense receipt. This is a taxi, $28.90, and my merchant, Blue Star. Not for client, and save. So that's as simple as it is with expense receipts. On the picture side of things, you can right click and rotate your image if you need to, if the picture that comes in doesn't work. You can also right click and view on map. This opens Google Maps and will show you where you were at the time that you took that photo of that receipt. So all of these expense receipts are photos that you've taken of expense receipts and that you have emailed into the system. Also within an expense receipt, we monitor what has happened to it within the system. So I've swapped from the main tab to the system tab, and I'm looking at the actions. So it was assigned to super, some GL coding was put on it, it was allocated to an expense claim, it was updated from available to used, used to available. Okay, so we are tracking that because of the different clicks and coding that is done on the expense receipt. The second part of this is the actual expense claim itself. So I have a panel down here with my expense claims. You can choose to view all open and closed. You can choose to view them based on a particular status, or you can see only available ones, whatever you like. We go back to all open and closed. You've also got a days old here, so that shows how much history you're going to see. If I change that back to 50 days, my existing receipt disappears. If I bring it back up to the 600 days, I can see it again, and that's because that one is from 2015. If I want to create a new expense claim, I click on the $sign and it opens up a blank form for me. At the bottom of the form, we've got tabs for coding, unallocated receipts, recently used, previously rejected. On my unallocated receipts tab, if I drag this over here, I can see all of my receipts that are sitting in my receipt panel. I can add these to my expense claim by clicking on them and then clicking Add Lines to Expense Claim. If I have a charge for which I don't have a receipt, for example mileage, in the top part of my panel I can right click and add a blank line. This has opened up my blank coding receipt, so we will put today's date. Travel to client for meeting. My expense type, I want to use the mileage one, and this time my value is blanked out. All I'm allowed to do is put in my kilometers, so I went 25 kilometers at my predefined rate that we saw before, and it has calculated the value. And type your name as the merchant. Click OK. And I've now got another line on my expense claim. The total of your claim, you've got total claimed, what has not been approved, what has been approved, and what has been rejected. From my coding tab, I can decide where this particular line needs to go. If I start typing words, then it narrows down what it is showing me in the bottom part of my screen here. So let's narrow it down and go local, and now I've only got the sales local codes. So then I can click that one. Because I had a value calculated up here, it has put the value into my receipt. Sorry, over here. As I click on each line, the bottom half of the screen changes and shows me what my expense has been coded to. Okay, that one's gone there, that one's gone there. This one here doesn't actually have any coding on it yet. So what did we say? Airport. So let's go back to local and select that one. When you are happy with all of the coding on your expense claim, and it may not be your job to code the expense claim, it might just be your job to put the receipts in there and then it goes to someone else for coding. When you're ready and the expense claim has been coded, you can click the Submit for Approval button. If you have the Workflow Alerts and Approvals module, it's possible to set up alert rules which tell the system what to do when you click Submit. So we have expense claim line submit for approval. So this is going to require each line to be approved separately. It is a programmatic rule and its type is process transaction. The rule is checking that it has not already been assigned. It is also checking that there is no errors, okay, that our error message is blank. If we go back and bring up that new expense claim that we did, not that one, number 71, you can see that it still has an exception on it. If we look at this, the exception reason is that it's outside tolerances. If you remember, our coding had a $50 tolerance on it, and this is outside the tolerance. So you can either reduce the claim to claim less than what is allowed, or you would have to talk to someone and maybe submit it as 2 lines or work out what happens with the additional. Save our line again, recall our expense claim, and submit for approval. You can have multiple rules and they can all do different things depending upon what is required. As a manager, once someone has submitted their expense claim to you, you click into the expense claim. As you click on each line, your screen will change and you can see the actual receipt on the right hand side. You can see what they've coded it to. If we make this a big screen, then on that particular line, I can right click and I have my approve, reject, permanently reject. I can approve a single line. Don't have to type a narration if I don't want to. I can also approve all. Once that's gone through, it will then be processed by the accounts department and converted into an accounts payable invoice. So to recap, as you incur expenses, take a photo of the expense receipt and email it to a mailbox that will have been set up. That will enable Google Maps to be able to show you where you were in case by the time you come to code it, you have forgotten where you were and what the expense was for. You can have the basic coding form that we saw at the beginning, or you can have the more detailed one where you actually get to code it, not just do the type of expense at the top. Once you have all of your receipts coded, you can do this throughout the month as they're incurred, or you can do them all at the end of the month. To create your receipt, you go in and you select the receipts that need to go onto the expense claim and add them. From there, you submit it to approval for your manager. They get to view the receipts as well as the claim, and it makes approval much easier. We hope that you can see some benefit in this eDocs expense receipts and claims. Thanks.